having a rental is a system that you set up where someone buys you a house. Generally, the most expensive thing that someone buys in their lifetime is a house.
Yeah.
You can set up a system where other people are buying you a house. It might be a long game, but that can be very impactful for one's financial future.
Thanks for joining us on another REI-NWA podcast. This is episode number 28, and I'm your host, Coley Bailey. I'm an executive broker and team leader at the Lone Rock team at Fathom Realty. And today we're going to be talking about buying for cash flow with Stephen Young.
Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Long overdue.
Absolutely. I know we've been in and around each other's circles for years, and we haven't gotten to do a deal together.
Nope, not yet.
And we've been so busy. We're going to have to go to lunch or something after this.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is obviously a super important topic for investors, especially right now. Cash flow is sometimes hard to come by with rates where they're at. We're going to have a lot to talk about today, so I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get into the topic too deep, though, I want the audience to learn a little bit about you and your background, where you're from. How did you get to this point?
So originally I'm from Washington State.
Okay.
Eastern Washington, the side that no one knows about, that has tumbleweeds and it's dry. There's no rain, anything like that. So anyways, I'm from Washington, and my wife and I moved out here about 6.5 years ago.
Okay.
Almost 7 years. So I came out for Walmart originally. And while I was at Walmart, we started buying up some rental property. And it was kind of part of a vision I had. So taking it back to high school, when I was 17, my girlfriend's dad introduced me to Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah.
I liked finance as a kid, pinching my penny, saving my money up, trying to hustle to make some money. And so when I read that, it just seemed like it was a really clear path forward for passive income, right? This concept of buy assets that would bring in money and other benefits that come with that. So when I came to Walmart, I worked in merchandise planning for a few years, and then I worked as an associate merchant for 2 years doing some buying. And simultaneously, we started to pick up some rental property.
And your first one was a house hack, right?
It was, yeah. So we moved out, and the same week that I started work at Walmart full time was the same week that my daughter was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, new place, adjusting to being a dad, a new job. And so...
and was she born here?
She was born in California.
Okay.
So I came out here, and we had her, and then I came out here about a week later to start working, and my wife stayed in California for a little bit.
Yeah.
We were staying with family at the time. So a lot of adjustment during that time. And we moved into a rental in Bentonville, and we had the goal of not renewing that lease. We didn't want to keep renting forever. We had the goal of within a year being able to find a duplex that we could live in one half of and then rent out the other half. And at that point, have no rent payment. What I found, even back then, was, and this was in, 2018, so 6 years ago, was that for someone that wanted to use an FHA loan and wanted to house hack, didn't have a lot of money, right? No big renovation budget, no experience to lean on, really just a lot of self-education, listening to podcasts and books. I found myself in a position, even then before prices came up and all this, and all the eyes on Northwest Arkansas, in this position of still finding it hard to compete in that market.
Yeah.
Right. With limited funds.
It was a hard market.
It was
still,
yeah, it was a solid market.
Yeah.
Everything's gone up so much. It's become more competitive.
Yep.
More eyes on multifamily, especially. But even then, right, I would run numbers on deals that were on the market. Oftentimes they weren't meeting the criteria that I had. Mm-hmm. If they were being purchased by cash investors or people that had more resources too fast.
Right.
So it put me in this position, and we were, I think we'd been renting for, 8 or 9 of those 12 months. I was like, we got to do something different.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing some direct mail. And from that, we found the first opportunity, the first duplex that we bought in Rogers.
Wow. Okay. So you sent mail. So you sent letters, I guess, to landlords of the type of property that you wanted.
Exactly. Yep.
And somebody bid. How many did you send?
It really wasn't that many looking back. I probably sent out a few hundred letters, maybe over the course of 1 or 2 months.
Okay.
It really wasn't that many.
Yeah.
Doing that for the first time, didn't know how to position ourselves in that type of marketing, right?
Yeah.
We just came across as very authentic. We explained We were new to the area. We're wanting to buy a duplex so that we could live in one half and rent out the other half. Of course, in that position, it's the first time now where I'm getting inbound leads in my life, right? Of people that are, tired of getting letters, people that are maybe a little bit more open to talking about that. And then in this situation, just connecting with the right person at the right time based on sending up my letter.
Well, cool. Yeah. I mean, I've found that to be a great solution. Anytime we've got somebody that's looking for a specific type of property and we can narrow it down and say, hey, you want to be in this area. I mean, even somebody that's just looking for a single family home. Yeah. It's like, we want to be in this school district and we want it to have this many bedrooms and be this size and, whatever. We can actually find all those properties that exist and narrow it down to the ones that they would like, even sometimes based off of past photos in the market and things like that. And then, throw those letter campaigns out there, and they're more effective than people would assume that they are.
I think so. And I think, in some markets it's probably not as effective. I think it's still effective here. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, we do that a lot. We have a whole program about that for sure.
Cool.
But yeah, and especially for investors, I love that. I really love that. And even, doing flips and things like that, try for dollars, get your list.
Yeah.
Start marketing. Start doing that.
Absolutely.
All right, Steven. So I do want to continue this story of going from your first house hack experience to growing your portfolio to what it is now. How did that go for you?
Yeah. So, well, with that first duplex that we bought, it was a massive opportunity. First time we had ever bought a property, actually. First time we did it without an agent. It was direct to seller. First time becoming a landlord. We close and we get 2 sets of keys. And first time figuring out how to set up a lease, right? And how to collect rent in a way that would be semi-scalable, right? Or scalable. So it was a massive learning experience. It was the first time I ever really did big home renovations. The unit that we moved into, before we moved in, we had to knock down popcorn ceiling and paint and do some other things, kitchen renovation, bathroom renovation. It was the first time that I'd ever done that. We kind of put our money into that. And the next goal that I had was I wanted to purchase a fourplex. The reason was with that first deal, the first duplex, at the time I qualified for a loan that would allow me to put down 5% on a conventional. Later on, that loan was kind of harder to get. And now it's actually in a different form available again. So we used that 5% down conventional, and I felt like I had this other tool in my pocket, the FHA loan, that I could use on a 1-to-4 unit. So I wanted to leverage that as much as I could and maximize it. So the goal was to find an off-market fourplex. After some time, we started doing some more marketing.
Yeah, those are few and far between in Northwest Arkansas.
There aren't that many of them. Yeah, there's really not.
That's one of the things I'd love to see getting built more is triplexes, quads.
I totally agree. Yeah. Especially with housing right now. Yeah. I think it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, so what we did is we marketed, and we found a lady had given me a call, and she said, I have 3 fourplexes.
Oh, wow.
I want $800,000 for them. And myself, I was like, I only wanted to buy 1. I was like, maybe I could buy 2. That'd be cool, right? That was a little bit too much, I felt like, at the time to take on.
Yeah.
Looking back, I should have, right?
Yeah, you should have gone for that.
It's okay, though. you live and learn, you rely on the resources, the experience you have. Yeah. So what we did is we got a HELOC on our duplex because we'd built up some equity in it. And then we used that HELOC for the down payment on the FHA loan on one of the fourplexes. We ended up... I borrowed some private money from some family for the second down payment on one of the fourplexes and got a construction loan.
Okay.
Was able to roll all those renovation costs into the loan.
Okay. And so that obviously wasn't FHA, didn't have as low of a down payment.
Right.
Do you know around what the
down payment, I think, was 15% of the
ARV after repair value?
Yes, exactly.
Sorry for the acronyms, but yeah.
Exactly. And so we borrowed the down payment for that, which I didn't know at the time you could do that. Yeah. Right. On conventional loans, like if there's a normal home buyer, you can't generally just go borrow money without having it disclosed.
Yeah.
But local commercial lenders were like, we actually don't really care where that down payment comes from. We just care that you have it.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, raised private money for that. And then the third duplex, I brought in a buddy of mine that was also looking for a new property.
Okay.
And he bought that. We basically worked together to close on all 3 on the same day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did make the 800 work.
We made it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. After running numbers, I mean, these fourplexes are 5 minutes from the Bentonville Square.
Oh my gosh.
And so at that price, I felt like we have to buy these.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how,
Right.
per se, initially. And I also, I mean, I only had one renter. I had one tenant.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I felt comfortable going from one tenant to 13 tenants overnight. I was fine with going from 1 to 9 and made it work somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we started. That was the next step in that process.
Fantastic. All right. So, well, let's talk about just in general, what makes a good rental property. I mean, when you're looking at that cash flow, how should people think of that?
I'll answer the question, but initially I would say it's a little subjective, right?
It is.
I mean, rental property for one person could look dramatically different than rental property for another person. I personally would be looking at how much net cash flow I'm going to have each month after all expenses and after phantom expenses, right? Things that are going to come up down the road for vacancy, for capital expenditures and repairs, right? So I can make sure I have that budgeted or planned into the cash flow. I would also be looking for a certain cash-on-cash return, such as like about 15% or higher on a deal.
Can you explain what that means for people?
So basically that would be taking your annual income that you're going to get from the property, and that's the net of that amount after all expenses, divided by the amount that you put into the property. So if you have a down payment of 5%, you're going to factor that in, plus maybe repairs, right? This is how much your money you're putting in to acquire and maybe fix up the property. And then this is how much money you are going to earn net.
So it's your initial cash outlay.
Yes.
Not necessarily the purchase price of the home.
Yes.
Exactly. It's the initial amount that you put in. That number is the denominator of the equation with the net operating income of the yearly amount above that.
That's right. The reason that I like to use the cash on cash return, it's kind of like a barometer against like the stock market, or a benchmark, for the stock market. If you can put in your cash and get 8% in the stock market, I want to get 15% or higher in real estate.
Yeah. Right. Otherwise, why take the risk?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Just put it in, and that's completely passive, right?
Yep.
But it might not have as much upside. There's other benefits, of course, of rental property.
Right.
But yeah, so I would be looking at net cash flow. Usually want at least $300 a door, and then cash on cash return. Also looking at the location of the property, future potential appreciation for it, and other factors.
Right.
That's myself, and I think that's a lot of especially beginner landlords, people that are getting into it. In other markets, someone might feel like they get they have a rental that's maybe losing money every month, but has massive upside for appreciation. And that's a great deal for them. Yeah. So it's very subjective.
Or they get to depreciate so much and they're a super high income earner that they actually need that much depreciation.
And that's where they're getting the benefit.
Right.
They're factoring that depreciation as a savings into their calculation for ROI.
Yep. So there's 4 main benefits, right? So there's cash flow.
Yes.
There's the depreciation. There's the equity that your tenants are paying down for you. So you get that equity pay down. And then there's potential appreciation in the future.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there are a lot of ways that people are playing that when they're analyzing a property to see which of those is most important to them.
Some people just go after one, right? Maybe it's the tax benefits, right? A lot of people play that game. But yeah, those are the main 4. It's a really simplified way of looking at it, but for years I've liked to think of it as having a rental is a system that you set up where someone buys you a house. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it.
Generally, the most expensive thing that someone buys in their lifetime is a house. Yeah. You can set up a system where other people are buying you a house. It might be a long game. Yeah. But that can be very impactful for one's financial future.
I like that. Yeah, that's great. All right, well, we have a landlord lunch scheduled for April 18th, 2024, and that is at the Wagon Wheel Cafe in Springdale. Good down-home cooking. Come out and grab that. It's lunch. It's at noon, so I think doors open at 11:30. You'll get started at noon, and you'll get to hear Steven speak and network and hang out a little bit afterwards if you have time. And that's always a really, really good program every month. So definitely make sure you're coming out to that. It's always $20 at the door if you're not a member, but if you are an REI-NWA member, $0 at the door, and you get all the back-end benefits of all the recorded programs for the last several years, which means you can join REI-NWA from anywhere in the world and get all of those programs. Of course, you're not getting the in-person networking, which is so fun and has been just growing and growing and growing.
Absolutely.
We have so many great investors and agents and title people, attorneys. We got people in construction.
Yep.
I mean, you really do want to come to these meetings and pass out cards and then go have lunch with people and build your network. And that's what we're here to do. Man, this was a good, good show. I like this one. There's some really, really good actionable info in here. And I appreciate you coming out, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for watching this one. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.